Hey everybody, this is make it look casual. Hey everybody, welcome to the Monkey Barrel Comedy Chat Show. It's the only official podcast of the Monkey Barrel Comedy Club venue, one of the most renowned comedy venues in the world. And every week we have wonderful comedians on the circuit visiting us here, and we like to bring them in, sit them down, and have a little interview, ask them some questions. And today we have a wonderful guest, the wonderful Josh Glanc, everybody.
Hello, all the listeners and viewers. It's me, Josh Glanc.
I like to think there's like a really harsh line between the people that watch and the people that just listen. They hate each other.
They hate it. Yeah. Well, you know, if you're like a traditionalist. Then you're only listening, right?
You're listening. Or, if anything, you're printing it out in a vinyl. You're sitting down with a pipe.
And these new wave podcast freaks are recording everything like us.
Yeah.
What you mentioned that this is the only official podcast.
Yeah.
So that means there's like a whole slate of unofficial podcasts that have taken over Monkey Barrel.
There's other podcasts that are recorded here, but this is the only one that has Monkey Barrel branding on it.
Great.
So that's what you got the sticker for now. For now. Oh, so I got to get all these in.
There's more coming.
There's more coming.
There's more official. Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. You're gonna have to. If this goes to air, like what's coming first, the new podcast or this going to air?
Ooh, that's a good point, actually.
It's a good point.
Because, you don't want to be irrelevant.
Yes.
Yeah.
What we're saying is we want people to join our side in this MCU-style multiversal war between all the new podcasts.
The NBC universe.
Perfect.
That's cool, though. NBC universe.
So, yes. Josh, you started comedy in, I think you did your first show was 2016.
Yeah.
And you just kind of started comedy in a non-traditional way where you didn't realize that people kind of did 5 minutes kind of spots to kind of build up.
Yeah. How do you know this?
Well, you've done interviews before and I've read them and I deep dive.
That was very impressive, George. So yeah, I kind of always performed as a kid, and I was like obsessed with being an actor, I suppose.
Yeah.
But always, with a humor kind of bent.
Of course.
When you're a wacky kid, where else? I'm not doing serious dramas. As a 10-year-old,
you're not doing Waiting for Godot at age 9.
No. I'm walking around the schoolyard going, "My name is Joshua Glanc. I pull down my pants. I go to the movies. I suck girls' boobies. I went to the loo. I did a poo-too. I want to have sexy with you." Written at age 7.
Wow.
How do I still remember that?
That was great.
Isn't that wild?
That's wild.
That? And I used to go around like it used to be this thing, like, let's get, Josh Glanc is going to sing his song, just because, as a kid, when you mentioned I want to have sexy with you was scandalous for a 7-year-old. Like that was, the 10, 12-year-olds were like, "Oh, have you heard that, have you heard that prep kid that goes around talking about sex?"
Yeah. They were like, "Have you heard the latest track by young kids?"
Josh.
I just like the idea of kids in class just looking at the clock ticking into lunchtime, like, I can't wait to see Josh perform today.
That's it. What's gonna come out of his mouth?
Yeah.
So yeah, I love performing, and then I didn't really pursue it. And then I was working as a lawyer, and then there are a bunch of lawyers that got together to do like a sketch show.
That is the most insane thing I've ever heard. A bunch of lawyers to do a sketch show. Okay.
There's like a rich kind of history. I don't know if this is... I know that there's a sketch review tradition in the UK, but like I'm not quite sure how it works with university kind of like the language of, of being in university in the UK and all that kind of crap. But I know in Australia there's like a rich tradition of university reviews and people that are in university reviews that do sketch comedy, and then they go on to graduate and then they become not regular people. Well, this was a bunch of regular people that were like, "Hold on, we did sketch reviews at uni. Why don't we do them now as professionals?" And I never did them at uni. So I was
your second chance.
This is my second chance. I didn't do it. It's amazing that I didn't perform at uni. I was doing other things at uni. Eating and
Singing your songs.
Singing my songs.
Doing your tour.
Walking around. Yeah. Yeah. Hey, you guys want to hear a song?
Did it change where, because you were a kid singing about sex, is it now you're an adult singing about like, I'm going to get a mortgage?
Yeah. Oh, man. That would be sweet, wouldn't it? I'm going to get a mortgage.
It would be incredible.
I mean,
it's a dream.
Can I swear?
Yeah, you can swear.
Fucking yeah. No. Geez, what a dream to have a mortgage.
Yeah.
It's more like, hey, does anyone have a mattress protector? So yeah, a bunch of lawyers who had done that at university said, let's do a show at the Melbourne Comedy Festival.
Wow.
And a friend of mine emailed me like a thing that they were advertising for auditions.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, hey Josh, why don't you do it? And I'm like, all right. So I went and I auditioned, and then I formed part of this show that did a sketch comedy show at the Melbourne Comedy Festival with a bunch of lawyers. And then I was like, oh shit, that thing that I loved and was obsessed with and hadn't done for 10 years, I can't believe, wow, it felt amazing to be on stage. And I was like, oh no, I think I need to do this. And then I didn't, so it's such a weird way to get into it, because I didn't come from stand-up. I didn't come from a club setting where you do an open mic and you work up to 5 minutes. So the next year, I just said, I'm going to put on an hour-long show in the comedy festival. That's going to be a one-man sketch show.
Yeah. And that's crazy for comedians and people who've worked through the club system to think of. But I suppose for normal people, that's like, surely that's how you do it. That's what normal people outside of comedy would assume.
Totally.
Like, you just do a show and then that's it.
But
for comedians who've done 5 and then 10 and 15 and 20, that idea is like, you can't do that. You're breaking all the rules.
Yeah.
Deconstructing reality.
Yeah. It's crazy. Yeah.
So the lawyers that you did the sketches with, did any of them, did they all just go back into being lawyers?
Yeah.
That's incredible.
They pretty much did all went back into corporate life. I mean, it wasn't like, which was always a bit of a thing for me. Like it was I remember, because we did one that year and then we did one again the next year.
Oh wow.
And it always bothered me that we weren't like real comedians.
Yeah.
Like we weren't, we were lawyers doing a show. Like cute. You know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%.
Like the audiences that came were our colleagues and our family.
Yeah.
And I'm like, but I was like really into the comedy of it. Like I was like,
they were like, this is an aside, and you're like, I'm turning my ship towards this.
Yes,
this feels
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly, and also like really obsessed with the writing. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I'm like, this is really good. Like, we need to make this really good.
Yeah. So they coming into work and they're like, hey, we're gonna do that silly show next week, and you're like, we need to write more sketches. You're like, we need more.
Totally.
So they were like flippant.
Totally.
Oh wow. So they must have known. They must have been the first people to know. They must have known even before you did that. Like, yeah, this is maybe Josh's thing.
They were really encouraging, and the first people that were involved in helping me start that career were all those people. So like the producer of that law sketch show produced like my first show.
That's amazing.
And other people helped me write it and direct it. It was I basically worked the same way I did the year before with all my legal friends. Just then it became me making my own show. So I'd invite them over for like writing sessions, and it was incredibly supportive.
I'll be honest, this sounds like the best way to get into comedy, because it felt like a group of people came together, they all tried it, and when they realized they all supported you, and then it felt like it was like a launch. It was like a community launching you out into that with support.
It was
Whereas
really
I feel
supportive.
A lot of comedy is like you start and you do it for a long time, and it's not fun and it's not enjoyable, and you're by yourself and you're comparing yourself to yourself, and you just have to kind of keep going. This is fine. Even when it's not fine, you just have to keep going. Okay, I'll just keep going.
Yeah.
And until you get to that point where you're like, oh, okay, I've mastered this. But it's a very kind of lonely thing when you start in stand up. But that sounds glorious.
It was really nice. I haven't thought about it in that respect until now, really.
Yeah.
Like I haven't thought about it how supportive it was.
What we want in this podcast is for people to have the positive version of an existential crisis. Just to look back in their life and go, oh my God.
Like I'm overwhelmed with gratitude.
That's good, but I'm sure there was a certain thing as well when you came into the scene where people were like, who's this guy? You just turned up and...
Yeah, that was the backlash I got from the industry.
Yeah.
Or from the comedy scene.
Well, I always feel like people in comedy scenes are in control and power. To a certain degree, they want to go, all right, this is our system of people start here and build here and build here. And sometimes when I see people circumnavigate that, they get a little bit like, no, you go back. But it sounds like the way that you did it was such a slow but gradual process in a different way to get to the same place, you know, getting support, figuring it out. Essentially, everyone's first few years, months, whatever in comedy is finding your voice. And it sounds like you did the exact same thing, but just in a different way.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, I'm definitely still, I feel like I'm still kind of working out what my voice is, or what, like, you know, I think, I mean, it took me a long time, and I mean, I'm probably more anxious about doing a 10-minute club spot than I am about doing an hour show.
I could see that, yeah. Because a show is like a self-contained, you're in control, whereas a show, you've got all the other factors of the host, the audience, how things go, how it goes for other acts. There's all these variables.
Totally.
That with your own show, you kind of... they're still there, but you're in control of them.
Totally. And also because I rely I'm not doing stand-up.
Yeah.
Like, it's you know, as while I might have some bits that are quite clubby, that I can do at any club, and I know that they generally will work. Yeah. Except maybe not on Friday night at 7 p.m.
We don't talk about that
one. Okay. I mean, that's the way it goes.
I mean, that's the way it goes. I think I just called you Evan as well. Keep that in. Please keep that in.
Keep it in. Well, I did see a show I did see an interview online where you were talking about how you'd done a bunch of, you doing a work in progress, and you'd done the week before like a bunch of wonderful shows, and the following week you did the work in progress, and some of the same people had come and didn't realize that a work in progress is like, these are new ideas, this is kind of things. And I think there was a quote where you said somebody came up to you and was like, what happened?
Yeah.
And you have to say, because the general public doesn't know, you go like, look, it's like that sometimes. Even the previous show that you thought was great, when it first started, there was events like this. You gotta get in there with the raw clay and start beating away till you find what's in there.
It's hard though, you know, because like I think, like, I mean, it's such a balance comedy in terms of like not caring, and like doing your own thing, but at the same time, like caring so much and wanting to be liked so much.
That weird thing in comedy of you have to listen to the audience, but sometimes you have to ignore the audience because you're writing something, it's not there yet. It's like, I get why maybe you didn't like it as much as you should, but I have belief that it can be turned into something. Yeah. So it's this weird thing in comedy we need to trust and not trust the audience at different times.
Totally.
Which is so confusing.
Yeah. I struggle with that, definitely. Like I want the bits to be there already. Like I really, like as much as I love the process of working it out, I find it really hard to be doing a bit.
It's frustrating. There. Yeah. Because it's that thing of you get an idea in your head, and in your head it's like, all right, I get why this is funny, and it's like, how do I explain to an audience why this is funny, or what's the right way to let an audience access this idea? Because you've got it, and it takes time. It takes time, and sometimes it's infuriating when you go, that's really funny. There's just no way to make someone else get it. I've tried it as the joke is about me or it's about someone else, and you do all these different variations, and you go, I just gotta let it go at a certain point.
Yeah, when do you let it go, and when do you keep?
You put it. I always feel that you put it. You go, all right, I let it go, and then secretly you put it in a little box in your head, and then years later you go, oh, here we go.
Well, things can work that way. Bits can totally work that way.
100% come back around.
Yeah, I'm really bad at knowing what bits of mine are funny. Before we started recording, you mentioned that voiceover bit that I did. So I did that at a work in progress before COVID, okay? A very different variation. It started with that voiceover, and then it went into like me in the recording booth recording the voiceover. It kind of got a bit meta. But there were also elements of audience interacting, and I did it once, maybe twice, and I thought, whatever. And then 3 years later, someone I was working with was like, what about that bit? And I was desperate for material.
Of course.
So I was like, in creating a show. So I was like,
of course,
okay.
when you create a show again, you go into everything.
You go into everything.
Yeah, 100%. Pull things back.
So I pulled it back, and that's become like a favorite bit of mine, and a bit that a lot of people really like comedically love. And it's funny to think that, it's scary to think that I wasn't on top of that, as in like that, like the only reason why I almost let it go. And then it just makes you think, well, how much other stuff are you just letting go? Are you just almost letting go? And it took someone else to say, hey man, what about that? And I was like, oh yeah, I need it. Okay, I'll grab that. And so like that scares me that I am so not like necessarily, I'm not, I can throw things away that shouldn't be thrown away a lot.
Well, there's also that thing of putting something away and you come back to it and you're like, oh, this didn't work for me when I was that age, or I had that level of experience, but now I know how to do that. I know how to present that to an audience, which I think happens to a lot of people.
Totally.
Sometimes they'll come back and they'll go, oh, I just need to tweak this little thing or this perspective on it. And suddenly that's an audience's way into that joke.
Yes.
And I often find, like you said, they're often the jokes that people love the most.
Totally.
So a wonderful thing that we have to relax people into the podcast. I feel like we're already very relaxed into this, but this is something we have is we have an Instagram deep dive. We've gone into your Instagram. We've picked a random post. We're going to show it to you. We're going to hopefully explain. So if you're listening at home, we'll explain. This is a picture of Josh in, is this your house, a hotel room? Oh, I can see a scene.
I think
Backstage?
I think that is in London.
Okay.
I have just finished my first Edinburgh in 2017, 16 September 2017.
Yeah.
I'm about to go back to Melbourne to do a brand new show.
Okay.
And there's a fantastic new comedy night in London. Well, not a new, there's a night in London called The Paddock, which is at the Bill Murray.
Yes.
And it's comedians doing brand new material. In fact, they do it. They've done it at Monkey Barrel.
Last Fringe.
Last Fringe.
Yeah.
So someone who saw my show, which was my show at my first Edinburgh, was a show called Man Fuel. I played like one character. The whole show was like a character narrative show.
Yeah, such a great title. All your posters have always been so great. I love the one of you on the bike, which we'll probably show on screen right now. It's incredible.
Yeah,
like someone was asking me to describe your comedy, and I was like, imagine like Andy Kaufman meets Charlie Chaplin meets every porn star from the 70s.
That's great. I love
those three together.
Fuck, I love that. I love that. Someone described my new show in Perth. Someone was like, I mean, just to be, compared to someone like Andy Kaufman is like, such a, like that is, that I suppose that I go for that in many ways. Well, not that I go for it, but like it's an interesting comparison because there's a sensitivity and a sweetness to his stuff, which people describe in what I do as well. Like,
it's a welcoming.
A lot of it's not funny. A lot of
I feel like
just,
it's just very welcoming though. It is like, it's not like I'm doing this and if you're not on board, tough shit. It's very welcoming, like, come on, this is fun. We're going to have a good time together.
Yeah.
It's kind of welcoming and ushering people, which I think is a very Andy Kaufman thing.
Yeah.
People always thought of Andy Kaufman as a very distant, but when you watch his old stuff, it's so like, I desperately want you to have fun with me.
He's really open.
Yes.
He's very open. And I think I'm also trying to be really open. I think that's a really important thing for comics to be open. But back to the picture.
Yes, so you were very open. So for people who are listening, this is just with a watermelon on your head that you've hollowed out, I assume?
Yeah, and I got in trouble by the people that I was staying with, because I was running late. So I had this idea of coming on stage with a watermelon as my head, for my head, and it was just an idea I had. And then I was told about this night in London.
Yeah.
And the person running it reached out to me because a friend of them told them about my show and was like, "Do you want to do it?" And I'm like, "Yep." So I didn't know anything about it. I mean, I was like, this was such an exciting period for me. This period, this was like probably my favorite period in comedy. I'd just done my first Edinburgh. It went really well, and I was so inspired by what I'd seen, and I was now about to make a brand new show. And I'd just done this character narrative where I was a character the whole show and there was a story and it was great. But I was about to make a show where I literally made it with the kind of the philosophy or the premise of I'm going to do whatever I want. And I didn't care if it made sense. I didn't care if it was connected. And it was really inspired by what I'd just seen in Edinburgh as this Australian that had come over and seen UK comics that I'd never seen before. like, I'm trying to think, Spencer Jones and I'd never seen that before. And I remember seeing that show and just loving the just kind of compromising of this is my idea.
Yeah. And I'm sure you felt this is my space. This is where I should be doing this. Yeah.
100%. And it was so exciting to make a show with that freedom of I'm just going to do anything. And I'd never had that. That never dawned on me before. And so I was about to enter this really exciting period creatively.
Yeah. So you were, I remember comedian Daniel Kitson saying this years ago. He said the time people are happiest is when they've just done something good and they have another good thing to look forward to. There's like that little buffer period in between where you've done the show, you've done it, it was successful, you kind of found your space, but now you knew you had all this other stuff to get excited about having. And I feel that is like for comedians, that's like the greatest joy.
Totally.
To just be like, I've just done something great and I'm really excited for this next thing. You're in that sandwich place of joy.
Well, often the next thing is really informed by the previous thing. Like the show I'm making now is a desire creatively to go in a particular direction. And I suspect that after I'm done pursuing that, I'm going to be going in like another direction that's also like bubbling away. But you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it was doing this kind of narrative character that then I was like, I don't care about story, nothing. I'm just going to be an idiot. I'm just going to be silly. So this was, about to go to that. And then the fucking people I stayed with. So I was running late to the gig.
Yeah.
And then I apparently didn't clean up well enough and they gave me a hard time. And these were friends of mine. And I remember being a bit like, maybe I sound not entitled's not the right word, but like not grateful. But I remember being like, fuck off. Like, come on, like, give me a break. Like,
it's watermelon man time.
I was gonna, exactly. No, but it was like I was gonna come back and clean. Like I was only gone for a few hours.
Yeah.
I was running late for a gig.
Yeah.
Give me a break.
It's not like you
don't you bloody they were fucking Australian professional lawyer colleagues.
Yeah.
I'm like, you don't get it, okay? We gotta hollow out a watermelon. I gotta hollow out a watermelon and get to Angel in 20 minutes.
And they were
Get
like,
off my back.
They were like, objection.
Overruled. They're like, sorry, Josh, can you clean up the watermelon before you leave? I'm like, fuck off. No, I can't. I'm compromising my whole goddamn life to do a bit that I don't even know is going to work. Enjoy your fucking salary.
Oh, God. Well, they just had a mortgage meeting that day.
Exactly.
That had gone amazingly well for them.
Does that make me... I don't like having that. I do have that...
But it's a comedian
I do have that
thing.
prejudice.
It's a comedian thing where you kind of go, do you not understand? I have to do... This is my job.
But I've lived both lives.
Yes,
Okay?
yes.
Let me tell you, the life that we're living
Yeah.
is much harder.
So much
Is
harder.
much fucking harder. And people say like, well, yeah, but you're pursuing what you like. So, mate, no.
We pay for that.
No. Our life is harder in almost every respect. However, I am really happy.
Yes, that's the benefit.
I am really happy to be like, I love performing,
Yeah.
and my soul, I speak about it in terms of soul, and I know that's a bit hibbity whatever, but like I feel like there's a warmth. Like, I did my whip last night, and you're just filled with this, there's this warmth and joy, and it's like it makes me emotional to think about.
Well, it's almost like that part of your body when you're a comedian, you're driven towards comedy. It's like a magnetic pull.
Yeah.
And you can feel when you're being pulled and when you're moving towards that.
Yeah.
And then you see people in, other jobs that they have to do that probably have things that they love and they can't do them. And you can see it. It hurts them drawing away from it.
Totally.
It drains them the further they move away from the thing they want to do. So,
Yeah.
yeah. It sucks sometimes being a comedian, but I am always glad when I feel that warmth and that excitement of doing shows and
just
preparing stuff and putting it out there and
Yeah.
seeing it and just working on stuff sometimes like that doesn't work, but
Yeah.
I'm very excited to figure out how to make that work.
Yeah, that feeling sustains you because, until you've made it, I mean, even then, but like, I think I'm really prejudiced about this and people, and I think about it a lot, but people are like, sorry, it is like just a normal profession. It is just like a normal career, I'm like, no, it's not. It's really not.
It's chaos.
It's absolute chaos.
Absolute chaos.
There's no progression. There's no logical progression. We don't know why we get opportunities and why we don't. It's really difficult to navigate, and it's
100%,
lonely.
Yeah, even having somebody in a normal job, a manager that comes to you once a year and say, "This is your evaluation." Nobody evaluates you in comedy. You have to do it yourself.
Seriously, like that. Totally.
I would just love like an ND. Even like I always say to people when they come to the Edinburgh Fringe used to do this thing where 2 days after the Fringe ends, they would have a big fireworks show that would go off over the castle. And I would always say to people, if you're doing the Edinburgh Fringe, stay the 2 days and see that so you can feel an end to the Fringe. Like you can watch the fireworks going off and you can reflect and go, I've come to the Fringe, I've done this, I've achieved something, and this is like the closing credits on that. Like it's not the end of something because so many people would fly over, do the Fringe for 28 days, and then they'd end their show, and at like 2 a.m. they'd get a train back down to London.
Yeah,
and I was
wow.
like, you're not leaving yourself that space to reflect on what you've done and achieved.
No,
like, that's
always,
amazing.
I always celebrate. I celebrate it differently. I celebrate it by shelving an ecstasy tablet. But the fireworks sound
Very
nice.
similar, different vibes.
Different fireworks.
Hey, let me tell you, you could mix those two together. You could have a great fireworks show.
Totally.
So we have wonderful questions we've got from people on Instagram that we'd like to ask you.
Oh, really?
Yes.
People send questions?
People have sent questions in. So question number 1 is, what was the last thing you tried to do that you found really difficult?
The last thing I tried to do, I don't know if they're referring to like on stage or just like generally.
I think we'll accept either. I think generally, yeah.
Should I go generally?
Let's go generally, yeah.
The last thing I tried to do,
you found really difficult.
fuck, this is so hard. I'm trying to think. I'm just maybe like masturbating earlier today. I found that a bit difficult.
You were just behind that curtain where we filmed, so it was. I felt it was difficult as well. We made eye contact a few times.
I know that'll really throw. I mean, yeah. Sorry to say that did throw me off. No, because it was like
I was doing this. I was like, thumbs up.
it was really. I'm staying at some friend's place and they don't put the heating on, so it's really freezing in the house. Like it's freezing in the house. So I was really cold.
Watermelon everywhere.
And watermelon everywhere. I'm just sounding like a horrible house guest, aren't I? I'm really grateful for everyone that puts me up. Let me just say that. But it was kind of like I was kind of indifferent about it, and I did it. I did it because I hadn't done it for a couple of days, and I was like, I probably should
methodically.
I probably should do this.
Yeah,
just
balance yourself out.
So that was something. So I struggled with it. It wasn't so easy.
I should say we gigged together a few nights ago. I see you now. You seem a lot more chill. I don't know if that's helpful.
Well, I appreciate that.
Thank you for putting the work in. Not enough people put the prep in before coming in to record this podcast.
That is good.
Question number 2 is: have you ever shoplifted?
I'd love to know who's asking that question. Is that a question that you get regularly?
No. They're different every week. They're always wild.
I have shoplifted. I think I pretty regularly shoplift.
Oh my god, I can't believe it. This is a security guard from a shop.
I'll reveal that. Yeah. I think I.
What's the smallest thing you've ever shoplifted?
It's often just like. I think once I forgot that I had something and then I was like, oh, I got away with that really easily.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll do it again.
That's not the lesson. We'd like to clarify that we here at Monkey Barrel Comedy Chat Show do not support shoplifting.
Yeah. You know what? That was a lie. I knew exactly what I was doing.
Please remember everything.
Every time. Let me be clear. I fully knew. Isn't that let's call it what it is, because there are some people that are like, oh, stealing an avocado from Sainsbury's, like, fuck them, man, fuck Sainsbury's. I'm not going to pretend.
Yeah.
Like some people are like, you have a right to steal from a corporation.
You don't have a moral argument. You're like, I like it.
No, I'm still. It's criminally and morally wrong.
Yeah.
I want to be clear that I acknowledge that. You know what I mean? I'm not doing this bullshit argument that somehow it's justified because they're a corporation.
No.
No, corporations
You've done
are
something
owned.
bad and you want that to be respected.
No, I want to fucking get away with something. That's what I want. I don't want the chocolate bar. I want to fucking live.
I'm going to go the extra mile now.
I want to feel alive.
Thank God.
It's got to be an ADHD. It's an ADHD thing. I'm chasing the dopamine here.
I'd like to remind everyone, you used to be a lawyer.
I used to get people off for shoplifting all the time.
Oh my God. Wow. I'm glad you discovered comedy before shoplifting.
It's such a wow. I'm reflecting a theme that's being threaded throughout this discussion is kind of like getting away. Like what can I get away with?
Yeah.
And what I don't like being told off to do. I don't like being told off for the watermelon. Yeah, it's an interesting thing. I mean, I would. Do you think that a lot of people? Have you shoplifted?
I don't think so. I think.
You haven't either, have you?
No, I have.
You have?
I did. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. Like a week ago,
You did a week ago.
Marks and Spencer's.
What did you steal?
I just garlic bread, I think.
Garlic bread?
Yeah, no, I was doing the food shop, and then
nutcase.
Here's a little secret.
Lunatic.
Here's a little secret for you. You know how when you're doing your shopping and you put it on like the weighted scale,
Yeah.
and if something's on there, it shouts at you if you've not scanned it.
Yeah.
They don't have that at Marks and Spencer's.
Really?
Shove it in the bag. No one notices.
Okay, welcome to How to Commit Crimes.
Rumor has it. Rumor has it.
Rumor has it.
I know someone who had like the barcodes. This is epic. This is epic.
Mm-hmm.
He had different barcodes for different weights. So he would get, a kilo of something very cheap, like flour or something that would cost £2.
Yeah.
Or like the aim would be as to how cheap could you get it with that weight.
Mm-hmm.
And he would scan that and then put his kilo of meat on the scale.
That's amazing.
Is that not wild?
That's wild. That's wild.
That's like wild. That's like that's a fucking criminal operation.
Yeah.
I'm not doing that.
No.
That's
too much.
I'm having
That's
such
a
a hard
heist.
time. That's a heist.
Yeah, you're not doing a heist.
Yeah. I struggle to jerk off. The only thrill I'm getting is fucking, taking an avocado.
Maybe if you get caught for shoplifting, you're like, I'm so sorry I didn't masturbate today. I'm so sorry.
Yeah. I think for me, it's also quite emotional in terms of like
shoplifting or the
shoplifting.
Okay, good.
Shoplifting.
Just making sure which one it was there.
Like if I'm feeling poor, I'm
more inclined.
Yeah. and if I'm not, then I won't.
Well, I think a lot of people who shoplift say sometimes it's when they feel a little bit of disconnection from the world. You know, people will just be like, just feel this. And then they steal something and they're like, oh, a rush. And even if they get caught, they're like, at least something in the world reached out and said, all right, can't do that.
Yeah.
It's like a recentering of themselves.
Yeah.
But I lied. I remembered I was working somewhere and they accused everyone in the shop of stealing. And then it was a huge big deal. And like 2 or 3 days later, they discovered, it was the manager had like counted up money wrong.
Wow.
And so I just went, oh, okay, I'm stealing from now on. You were so awful. I was like all the time.
Wow.
And then when I left that place, I talked to other people and they were like, oh yeah, that was for me too. That's when I started stealing.
That's when you started.
I was like, great. That was great. At that point, I was like, you spit in our face. This is what happens.
Totally.
Question number 3 is, what's a genuine passion of yours that people might be surprised about?
This is so...
You're not allowed to say shoplifting or masturbation.
I don't know if people will be surprised about this. This kind of is a hang-on, I suppose, from my previous corporate life.
Yeah.
I love investing on the share market.
Oh, really?
I love it. Like, I really, really enjoy it. It makes me, I don't do very well and I don't do very badly. I do...
But it's just
average.
You've got a passion for that.
But I really enjoy the learning process. I enjoy making mistakes. And it just makes me feel a complex I have about being a comedian. I don't know if other comedians have this complex, but given my history and background, I have a complex about like not feeling... the way I was going to describe it just went from my head, but like, edit that out, Ewan. I edit it out, Evan.
Don't start this.
I think I'm going to call you Evan from now on. I feel
you have the essence of Evan, which I've never.
You do have. Do you hate it? Do you hate it?
What, being called Evan?
Yeah.
I mean, it's never really happened before. Just you, Josh.
Oh, so we thought this was like a random thing, and then nope.
I'll answer it kind of a backwards way.
Cool.
My favorite time of the year is Edinburgh Fringe.
Okay.
I love Edinburgh Fringe.
Yeah.
I love it so much.
It's like a comedian's summer camp almost.
Exactly. It's the time of the year that I feel like a normal person.
Yes.
And I think every other month I don't feel normal. And I feel like and the reason why I think it's because we're waking up every day and we're going to work every day and we're seeing our colleagues and everyone's coming into our world. We're not the weirdos that are living this weird life of, being at a coffee shop at like 11 a.m., like trying to write a joke, or like trying to do your taxes, whatever. Like we're not living this.
We're not living on the fringe of society.
Yeah.
Society
is built that you have a night. Society is built that you have a 9 to 5, that you have a fixed address, that you like the whole makeup of society is built that you take holidays. You have annual. The society is built on that kind of. We've all bought into that, and I'm not saying that that's wrong. My complex is by the fact that I don't live that.
Yeah.
So in Edinburgh, I feel normal. So doing shares for me makes me feel a bit more normal.
Normal during the rest of the year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It just makes me feel a bit like I'm a normal guy.
Normal guy buying shares with a
buying
watermelon
shares,
on your head at the same time.
Buying shares and shoplifting. I'm just a normal guy.
So
I shoplift. I only shoplift from the companies that I invest in. Let me be clear. because I'm the owner. I can do it.
That's perfectly allowed.
Does that? What does that
that's a
sound
good-
like to you? I'm revealing. I feel like I'm revealing quite a lot about
Yeah,
me.
this is normally like a silly goose show, but like we
I'm
found out a
sorry,
lot.
I've made
No,
it
no,
so
this
sincere.
is great.
I'm so sincere. Oh, it's
Well,
exhausting for me.
Prepare for some more sincerity, because something we do is we get our guest from last week to record some questions for this week.
Oh, great.
Last week's guest was the wonderful Paddy Young. We have some questions here, so let's hop over to Paddy.
No, Paddy, I won't make out with
Hi
you.
Josh, Paddy Young here. I'm here in one of Leicester's finest mid-range hotels, and I want to ask you, what do you miss most about the Australian scene when you're in the UK? My question number 2 is, how do you think your moustache has impacted your life, and where would you be without it? And my final question, as my phone slips, is, have you got any enemies?
Great. So question number 1 was, what do you miss
Paddy.
most about the Australian scene when you're in the UK?
Not much. That's a tough question because I really am in love with the UK scene.
Yeah.
Like really in love. I'm so inspired when I see comedy here often. You know, I love that. Yeah.
Well, it's hard because I suppose the UK scene, you have to remember, has been going for so long, but also brings in people from all around the world. There's American comics, Irish comics, Australian comics, European comics. Whereas Australia, it's mostly going to be Australian comics. Ireland's going to mostly be Irish comics. You don't have that diversity of backgrounds and ideas kind of all coming together.
Yes.
And mixing.
Totally. I mean, I was just like, to call it a scene is a massive overstatement. I'm sorry. I don't mean to be so. I don't mean.
I know
to,
what you mean,
to
though. I
be
mean,
harsh.
like the Irish scene kind of feels like, you know, I feel like they can feel like scenes in like America, like they'd have like a state that has like a bunch of colleges and people go between it. There's not really a level where you get above that. But I think the thing I miss like about the Irish scene is like hearing people joke about and make references to things that are very specifically Irish or growing up in Ireland that people won't get here. Like every time I walk into a green room and there's an Irish comedian there, I'm just like, oh, let's talk about Irish things for a minute.
Yeah.
Just because it's so rare to do.
Yeah.
So it could be that.
It probably is that. It is the fact that like there's a huge gap in my collective knowledge here.
Yeah.
Like I'm not clued in politically to what a lot of people are clued in with.
Yeah.
I'm not clued in culturally to what a lot of people are clued in. So
And it's
after
not just you come up here to Scotland and Scotland has very
Scotland
different
has
things
different
to
thing-
England.
totally.
Yeah.
and not being able to, and I'm so obviously clued into all the things bubbling underneath the surface in Australia.
Yeah.
Like I can do an accent and I know
Exactly where that is.
what I'm referencing, and I know that the audience knows what I'm referencing. We're here, so that's what I miss. I miss very easily being able to tap into the what is it? The cultural zeitgeist of Australia, or,
the cultural awareness,
the cultural,
just the osmosis of that identity of being
yes,
Australian.
and that's my identity that I can very easily and you know, I don't have it here, and I want to have it here. And I'm slowly picking up on it, but I'm very aware of it. So when I write bits, I'm like, sometimes I'm like, I don't know if this is like, I don't know what this means for you guys, you know, because I'm not aware of, like, class is such a big thing in the UK, and it goes over my head completely because I'm just not clued into it.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's question 1.
Question 2 was, how do you think your mustache has impacted your life, and where would you be without it? What age did you grow the mustache? Do you have that as a lawyer?
No, I only grew it for that Man Fuel show.
Yeah.
I only grew it for that character show. And then I decided to keep it. I don't know why. Why? I don't know. I really don't know. And then it just...
Well, maybe that was obviously the point where you were transitioning from being a lawyer into doing this thing that you've discovered that's new. So maybe that felt like part of that.
Yeah,
You look in the mirror and you go, that's the guy that's doing comedy.
Yeah.
Without it, you're like, that's the guy that might have been a lawyer.
Yeah, totally. And the motorbike gave it away as well.
Yeah.
But yeah. But,
well, without that mustache, do you think perhaps you'd be in jail for shoplifting? Are you changing the mustache subtly every time you do a shoplift?
No. I think I probably wouldn't be as like there wouldn't be something as distinctive about my brand, I suppose.
Yeah. Why you see that with people sometimes. Comedian that performs often at Monkey Brown Comedy, Roscoe McClelland, did, I think he shaved like his head on the sides and had like a big long haircut on top. And when he did it, I was like, that's your brand. Like, this is you. This is what you always have looked like in people's minds for this character.
Yeah,
and now your body matches it. It felt like, because it just seemed like it just helped people come out and see him. And it was like almost a shorthand. They looked at him and they thought, all right, this is going to be some sort of energy. I don't know. It almost just felt like a more genuine version of himself.
That's super interesting. I wonder if I've unconsciously done that. Like, does the mustache kind of signal something a bit different, a bit quirky, a bit, when I walk onto a club, I mean, I am walking onto to clubs now wearing a midriff t-shirt.
It's funny because like I have a few friends they're like pro wrestlers, and they have a thing where every now and then they'll update their attire. If they change their character, they'll change their whole attire. Yeah. And I think comedians do that sometimes. Mark Nelson, who also performs here, dyed his hair blonde, and I was like, this feels like something because you're doing a new show. It feels almost like you've reinvigorated your character almost because it's a new look. It was interesting. It's very silly to think that like something so simple can change so drastically people's immediate reaction to someone.
Totally.
But also, I'm sure for them it was just them wanting to try new things.
Well, it is about just getting closer to authenticity, like closer to like, I mean, ideally you walk on stage and the audience knows everything about you. You know what I mean?
I get you.
In an ideal world. Yeah. In an impossible world.
Yeah.
Like,
which I think
just
even
trying to get close to that.
What you wear on stage does a lot of that as well. You know? And it's not like you need that, but it just kind of helps people get on board. It's part of what this vibe is, what this energy is.
Totally. And it helps me be a bit silly, like get into a silly vibe. And
well, that's especially if you're doing like a club set and there's other comedians doing more kind of standard stand-up. That makes it easier for you to just be like, this is different. There's a little thing here. It's a wink without having to do an actual wink to people.
Totally. It's funny because today I bought a t-shirt rather than a mid. I've got the midriff, but I bought a t-shirt for the option. Based on how the show's going.
That's great.
I'm like, should I? Because sometimes it can be a bit too much for a Saturday night crowd.
Yeah.
Like sometimes they're a bit like, I don't want this. What's going? Hold on.
Or you get
this is a bit.
You get the whoos and the hollers, and you're thinking this is something different.
Yeah. So I just before left was like, maybe I'll just have it on hand and not be my truth self.
Would you consider shaving off the mustache if it was a very difficult show? You're backstage and you just start shaving.
Maybe. In my show last year or the year before, Vroom Vroom, I had a fake mustache.
Really?
So I shaved and I wore a fake mustache for the show.
That's amazing.
And then I pulled off the fake mustache at the end of the show.
That's incredible.
So I've spent all of 2023 without a mustache.
Oh, wow. So, yeah.
But I just wore a fake one.
So where would you be without it? Still doing stand-up, but putting on a fake one.
But putting on a fake one. That's a great answer. Yes. I'd be doing the exact.
Okay. And question number 3, have you got any enemies besides obviously the corporations that you're investing in and shoplifting from?
No, but Christopher MacArthur Boyd.
Yeah, right there.
So this is a great story.
Okay.
He didn't, from that first Edinburgh in 2017.
Yeah.
There was an interaction between us, and he decided he hated me from that interaction. And the interaction apparently was, he's going to remember this better. Someone, like, there was like a group of comedians just kind of huddled.
Yeah.
And I didn't really know him, or he didn't know me or something. And someone like pulled out a Mars bar and was like, do you want this to him? Or something like that. This is going to sound, it wasn't mean, it was funny. So I don't know how to retell it properly. But there was something where like I just grabbed it and said like mine or something like that. Like not as, like, I don't remember specifically It was funny.
Yeah,
I know
but
that.
I'm sure you knew enough people in that group that you were like, this will be funny. They'll enjoy this.
Something was funny. I don't know how it worked because just going mine isn't funny, but like I don't know what I did, but I did something where I ended up with the Mars bar and he didn't. And apparently from that interaction, he hated me for years.
That's amazing.
He would be much better telling the story.
Yeah.
And then
We might have to get Christopher MacArthur Boyd next week now.
and then he came up to me last year in Edinburgh and told me and was like, "Hey man, I used to hate you because of this whole story."
I can imagine him saying that as well.
And then he's like, "And I realized, that I was being a bit silly and this and that." And I loved that he shared that with me.
Yeah,
I
that's
really
great.
love that. And then I went and I bought him a Mars bar and I gave it to him the next day.
Yeah, that's great.
But I love that because I can be like that. I can be quite petty and quite,
we all can.
we're quite sensitive.
100%. And when somebody, what's so funny is you can even just have an interaction with someone and in your head you're like, well, we are life enemies.
Yeah.
And that person hasn't even registered that an interaction has happened.
Completely.
Like you were just being like, hey, it's a silly Mars bar.
Yeah. I have not had, I don't even recall it to be able to.
He went to bed that night and he was tossing and turning.
He was angry. But I love that he told me that. And he's such a lovely, we in our interactions, they've been so lovely
since then. Well, that's good because if he'd been watching this podcast up until we got this point, everything you said previously might have infuriated him. Like, you're like, oh, I like to steal things. And he's like, yeah, I know you do. I know you do.
Yeah. That's
perfect. That's your enemy who is now a friend.
Who is now a friend. I don't think I have any other enemies.
You're unaware for now. They might come up to you at the fringe this year.
Well, and accuse me of doing something. It's like, hey man, do you remember I was like with my girlfriend and you came up and just started pashing her? I'm like, what? She was your girlfriend?
It was a silly joke.
It was a silly joke. Enemy is such a strong word.
Such a strong word, yeah.
Like I don't.
Nemesis? Would you like Nemesis?
No, there are people I don't like. I don't like non-funny comedians. Like I really have a problem with that. Because sometimes you see comics and they're really they're funny and they go on stage and they don't kill and they haven't really worked on their bits and their stuff is their stuff hasn't been worked on enough.
Yeah.
But I know, but they're funny.
Yeah.
And I love that.
Oh, yeah,
I
absolutely.
love funny people.
There's also something wonderful about seeing somebody that you can kind of feel the persona or the voice that they're making, and you can kind of see it's like you're like a little chef seeing a cake kind of being baked and it's rising, and you're like, can't wait to see that.
Yeah.
When it's finished, but I can see they're going in the right direction.
Yeah.
That's always a great thing to see as a comic, I feel.
Yeah. So an enemy is a really strong word.
Yeah.
But
thanks for bringing that energy to the podcast, Paddy Young.
Yeah. It's such a Paddy Young question as well. Do you have any enemies?
Yeah. Okay. So that's I think that's all of our questions for you today. This has been lovely. We found out a lot. We found out about the podcasts, the terrible roommates that you've had, enemies, multiple enemies. A lot of talk about enemies that you've had and some of your wild interests.
Well, I think I'm an enemy of a lot of people. I think that's what we're learning. Like no one's mine, but I am a lot of people don't like me.
Yeah.
Apparently.
Well, for the people at home who do like you and have enjoyed the podcast today, do you have shows coming up or anything, any projects you're working on you'd like to plug?
Yeah, I am. So I'm about to go to Adelaide and Melbourne Comedy Festival to be doing this new show. So I'm going to be, making that. And then, of course, I'm coming back to Edinburgh to Monkey Barrel. Whoa! Very excited. So I'll see you in August.
Yes.
At the MB. And something I'm really proud of, and something that I'm really excited about. And it's been such a long journey, but I'm really excited, and I really just want, I just really want it to be experienced and enjoyed. Is that I recorded my show Vroom Vroom, and it's gonna get released hopefully soon on 800 Pound Gorilla.
Yes.
But to accompany that, they normally do an album.
Yeah.
And what they normally do is they normally take the audio from the recording and they release it as an album. But my stuff is so sketchy and it's so
Visual.
and very like each sketch it's its own world. So I've spent a stupid amount of time and my own money to create like a studio version of the show.
Wow.
Like an album version of the show. So in the show, in the live show, I'm walking, it opens with me in the room like as a food vendor, right? But then in the studio version, we've recorded that and like soundscaped it so I'm in a stadium and I'm having interactions with people in a stadium. So you hear the crowd, you hear the sport going on, and then it becomes a song. Like there's been so much work and it's such a, and I'm so happy I did it because that like it means a lot to me to do that.
It
to
basically
make
means
that.
it's two pieces of art.
Yeah.
People get to have each one a different experience, which I think is great because I know myself from listening to comedians, you know, the audio of comedians shows where you're just like, I don't get what's happening right now. I don't get what people are laughing because it's a visual joke. Yeah. And I'm just hearing the audio side of it. So that's cool.
Yeah. That was really, it was so much work and
in the end worth it.
Probably not, but I'm
think when you
so
look
proud
back,
of it. I'm really proud of it, but I want people to listen. You want people to appreciate like the work
and the effort
that's gone into it. But I love it. Yeah.
If people would like to see more, they can follow you on Instagram, all the social medias. If you enjoyed the podcast, please follow Monkey Barrel Comedy. If you want to come visit us at Monkey Barrel Comedy, there's shows every night of the week. I host the Saturday show every week at 5 p.m. And hey, if you'd like to see me, George Fox, more, you can check me out on Twitch 5 nights a week doing a live show. Go to www.twitch.tv/Fox Comedy. Hopefully I'll see you there. So that's our show for this week. Please share it, support us.
Sorry for making, this was like a very earnest, sincere podcast. I know that we wanted to be silly, but...
It's perfect.
No one's ever apologized.
I'm feeling very earnest. I'm going to have. We're about. You mentioned that you're hosting the 5 p.m. show.
Yeah.
Which we're about to go to now. I'm going to bomb.
No. We're going to have a lovely time. But thank you for watching. If you enjoyed, please share, like, subscribe, do all the good things. There's a new episode.
Why'd you guys take that so seriously? I was joking, and you're like, no, Josh, you'll be fine.
You'll be fine. It's okay.
You're not allowed to bomb.
We got to deal with this breakdown over here, so we're going to go. But there's an episode every Wednesday. We'll see you next time on the Monkey Barrel Comedy Chat Show. From me, George Fox, from Ewan behind the desk, and from Josh Glanc. We'll see you again. Bye.
See you soon.
There's something hiding under the ice, imitation of a sound. There's something standing behind the door. Would you like